Yo, what up YouTube? My name is Noah. You can call me the Plant Man. I've got a really cool video for you today. I happened to purchase one of the rarest monsteras you can possibly buy, and I'm just over the moon to be able to tell you a little more about this plant. So let's dive right into it. This is a green on green variegated Monstera Deliciosa. It's just being slightly covered by my lemon guava here. So I haven't just propped up because I still need to exchange the pot and give it something to lean up against so it can be supported. But yeah, this is the variegated green on green Monstera Deliciosa. You can tell it's variegated because of how the pattern is. It's not necessarily, sometimes it can be sectional, so it would be like a whole stripe of variegation. This is more of like a random pattern. Some of the most common types of variegated Monstera are the Monstera Deliciosa albo or Borsigiana albo. Another one is the Monstera Deliciosa sectional. That can be like a half moon. The Monstera Deliciosa aurea, which is, instead of a green, it's more of like a yellow color. You might ask, why exactly is it this way? You know, what causes this? So the cause of a plant becoming variegated is actually a genetic mutation. And that genetic mutation, look at that. It's outstanding. So what the genetic mutation does is it basically it strips certain areas of the leaf of pigment. And so leaves, I don't know if it's all leaves, but in particular the Monstera, it has 3 levels of variegation. I'm just gonna say top layer, middle layer, and bottom layer. I don't know if that's actually the correct terminology, but just for to grasp the concept, I think that'd be a good way of explaining it. So this one in particular, it would have one layer, the top layer missing, let's say. And you come over here. This is the variegated angel trumpet. So if you look at the variegated angel trumpet, it has unique variegation on it. Not totally unique to this plant, but it's not super common to be able to see. Some forms of variegation, it'll be like a cream on a green, or it might just be this color and this color, but this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 colors in it. So that's a good example. The reason being, you see the solid green in the center. That would be all of its pigment in the center is totally there. You go the next shade down, maybe 1 layer is missing on this green. And then you go the next shade down, maybe 2 layers are missing. And then you go the next shade down, white. That means all 3 layers are missing. And that's a really good example of how to understand that. So we'll come back to this plant. I'm sorry for the video. It's a little bit awkward to be in this area. It's a bit of a confined space. Also, I don't necessarily want to take this out of my grow tent because the light won't be the best. But let's dive into the pros and cons of variegated plants. So this can be a pro or a con, but the pricing and the rarity. What's the rarity of a plant like this? Well, the chances of you getting a plant that's variegated is roughly 1 in 100,000, or 100,000 to 1. And then not to mention that there's different forms of variegation. So what's the likelihood that you'll get a green on green Monstera? Pretty unlikely, especially from seed. About less than a 1 in 100,000 is the chances of you getting it. And I would argue that it's even less than that, because you have, out of all the variegated styles of Monstera you can get, it could be any number of them. So another benefit of this is that it's highly collectible. Because it's variegated, the rarity, it's different. it's an interesting plant. It sparks conversation, and somebody who's a plant lover will look at this plant and go, "Yo, dude, your Monstera, what the heck's going on? It's not growing very good." And you'll say, "No, it's nothing wrong with it. It's growing just fine. All the leaves are healthy. What's wrong with it?" So, well, the coloring's weird. Well, there's splotches on it. What's up with that? You say, that's how it is naturally. It's a genetic mutation called variegation. And that's why it is the way that it is. Pretty cool. Another cool thing is its stunning appearance. Most variegated plants are plants where you'll walk by it and you'll go, "Oh dang, oh, that's not normal." You know, you look at something like that compared to its green counterpart, completely green counterpart, you go, "Well, it's pretty neat. Yeah, it's a neat little plant." At least I do. One of the other benefits is, I don't know if this has been substantiated, but allegedly in some variegated plants, it'll deter pests. So pests will come along and go, "Oh, this ain't a suitable host. There's already something wrong with it," and go on to the next one. But that can also be a double-edged sword. Let's move on to the cons. So like I said, the price and the rarity can be crazy. A plant like this green on green Monstera will probably sell for 2,000 American just for the size that it is. $2,000 American. So that's quite well out of the price range of most people. What about, is it difficult to source? Yeah. I mean, because it's so rare, where are you going to find one? So if you do find one, chances are they're going to, jack the price right up, especially if it's a hot plant like this. Monstera is probably, I'm not going to say probably, Monstera has been consecutively since 2020, since 2019, the beginning of COVID, this has been I would say the king of all houseplants. You have a variegated Monstera, you've got money. Everybody wants it. What's some of the other issues that are associated with this plant? Well, it's not all variegated plants, but some variegated plants, because they look different, some insects and pests will go, "Oh, there's something wrong with that plant. That means it's weak. That means we can attack it." And they will. But some variegated plants have the potential of being more prone to certain pests than others. Another factor in this is the fact that variegation can actually contort the leaf's shape. So along the edge of citrus, for instance, they'll have like a completely variegated border, and that border will actually curl the leaf in and give it an odd shape. And because it's an odd shape, when you go to spray the plant, you hit the bottom. You always spray a plant bottom first, then you hit the top. The reason is to knock off bugs. But you hit the bottom first and it's all coiled and stuff, and you might be hitting one corner of the bugs, but in this little other corner, they're still hiding. So you have to be a lot more thorough in that way. I had a Mineola tangelo that was not only just susceptible to scale, which a lot of citrus are, it was also susceptible to spider mites. And I mean, it was prone. What are some other cons? Well, variegated plants, because they lack the pigment, which is so effective at converting solar energy into food for the plant, glucose or sugars, basically the lack of that almost acts like a dead zone, and it can cause that certain area to become more prone to certain things like sunburn. So when a plant, on those white sections of the leaf, when it gets sunburned, it's not going to come back. It's just going to be dead. And then eventually, after some time, that whole leaf might fall off because of how damaged it is. Not always, but it can. The thing that really sucks about variegated plants is because they're not completely green, they don't photosynthesize as effectively as their green counterparts. Meaning, so this one wouldn't be an issue. This is green on green. Even the sections that are variegated will still be able to effectively photosynthesize. Maybe not as effectively as a deep green, but it's still green. It'll be able to do its job. Variegation can be a big pain in the butt is because they need more light intensity due to the fact that they don't have as much chlorophyll, right? So they need that little, not necessarily more, but they need consistent, good, nice light. Double-edged sword is the sunburning. If they get too much light or too intense light or too much heat, the leaf will burn. genetic instability is one of the downsides of owning a variegated plant. It will be a double-edged sword because as the plant matures, because it's a random pattern, you don't know exactly where the variegation is going to end up. And it's impossible to see on this particular kind of variegated plant, but the stem will have variegation all randomly all over it. Look who's sneaking in here right between my legs. Hey, buddy. And so, hey, how is it going? You have a good nap? Yeah. You're a good boy. Yes, a good boy. So yeah, if basically when you cut these, there's a chance that you may not get any variegation at all on your next cutting. As the node comes out, if that node has no variegation on it, it's going to come out solid green. And if it's completely variegated, it'll come out completely variegated. It's only when, you know, the node has been hit with a bit of green and a bit of variegated that you'll get a variegated shoot out of that same node. And who's to say that the pattern is going to be as pronounced as it is on this plant? So it's kind of a coin toss sometimes, and you don't always get what you're hoping you're going to get. And if you bought a plant like a half moon, I hear that a common thing that happens with half moons is they start out beautifully and then all of a sudden they just start spitting out full albino leaves and full green leaves, full albino leaves, and then eventually they just go completely green. Which the terminology that you'd use is it reverted, or went back to green. In particular, a plant like this, there's not a whole lot that you can do aside from maybe cutting it down into nodes again and hoping for the best. When a plant reverts, there's a couple ways of getting past that. So if I had a stable variegated plant or even a semi-stable variegated plant, it starts, you know, like Unanimous is a really good example. Unanimous is it's a common landscaping plant that has, it's also called winter creeper for some forms of it. And it'll commonly be a beautiful variegation, and then when you look at the bushes, once in a while they'll put out a totally green branch. So what you want to do is you want to come along and you cut that completely off, because the variegation isn't as vigorous as the green. So because it's not as vigorous, the green starts to outcompete the variegation, and it'll actually take over the whole variegated plant. So you'll notice towards the bottom there'll be like patches of variegation. You look at the top of the plant and it'll be totally green. And it happens, I see that quite a lot just driving around. I think all in all, that will be quite the informative video when it comes to variegation. I hope that I showcased this plant neat enough for y'all and you enjoy it. Green on green Monstera Deliciosa. I'll be showing a lot more of this, giving you plant updates along the way. And I couldn't be more excited to actually have the gift of being able to get this plant. Let's look at that. If you like the video, please like, share if you want to share, and subscribe if you want to subscribe. It helps out the channel. YouTube uses algorithms, so the more people who jump on board and support me, the faster my channel will get to grow. Enough of the plugs. I wish you all the best. Happy growing. And if you ever got any questions, don't be afraid to drop me a comment, PM, or anything in between. Take care. Bye for now.